I spent a full year inking 100 pages of my manga to compete for a $10,000 prize pool and the chance to see my work right next to One Piece. But I didn't stop there. I plan to release 3 chapters and win top prize for every single one. Alright, so it's month 1 and I was hyped to make my manga. Riding the wave of inspiration from the Shibuya arc, I was cooking some heat. Every night at 3 a.m, I'd pace in circles, daydreaming buildings getting destroyed and stuff for Mika Arson, my cheerful, smiling villain who thinks burning cities is a family tradition. Yes, I'm gonna be going for a villain main character. After hours of brainstorming, I decided that Mika would be on a mission to assassinate a top captain so that her family could freely burn down an entire city. But then it hit me. Writing a story where Mika's eviler than her enemies? That's quite the challenge. My story's idea could be summed up as, what if Deadpool got into JJK fights with the hint of Attack on Titan vibes? How the hell would you combine Deadpool and Attack on Titan? I don't know. Could you just imagine him roasting Eren? Bro, what would he say to Gabby? Oh my god. This idea, it sounds like fun, but it was not gonna be easy to pull off. But eventually, the story clicked in my mind. If I leaned more into comedy, it should be fine. But here's where I made a misstep that would cause future consequences. I wrote the entire story in my head. 3 days later, I had an entire script and jumped straight into storyboarding. I spent dozens of hours of mental work, but barely any time editing. Spoiler alert, this was only the first of many problems. But hey, we will get to that. My goal for month 2 was simple but ambitious. I was like an oil tycoon. The goal was to storyboard all 100 pages of chapter 1. So the first character I'm introducing is Vance Hunter, once a slave and now the strongest man in the city, a living symbol of survival. Then I introduced Zaria Hunter, young mom, anime addict, secretly a captain herself. Lanceria is home to thousands of people, including these little guys who can be seen roaming everywhere. But Zaria stands out. She wants to connect with their daughter, but she's so devoted towards protecting her city that their relationship has suffered. She wasn't supposed to be the main character, but I kept her in the story longer because she's just a fun character, but she would cause ripples of writing problems for months. As soon as I kept her in, I started to veer off the script, stretching 130 pages of script, hit 140, 150, it kept on getting longer. In fact, Zaria was supposed to get accidentally rammed by Mika's pet shark into helicopter propellers. She was supposed to be gone, but no, she's still here. Zaria was such a peaceful soul that I just had to keep her, bro. After page 30 is where we start to get a whole lot more of Mika. I don't know what the hell I was smoking, but at one point Mika rips an eyeball out of a sentient helicopter and somehow bitches it into becoming her pet. And there's also a part where Mika traps Zaria in a fridge, and I'm pretty sure I got the expression idea from Pomni, because Pomni has the best expressions. And yeah, surprisingly, by the end of the month I had 100 pages storyboarded. Month 3 is where I entered new lands. I just couldn't get the first chapter to stop looping my head. I just felt something was wrong about it. I was terrified about writing a villain main character. Now currently feels like it's hard to hate Mika, but I was so scared at the time. So what did I do to fix it? I let Vance get some early shots on her. Dragon Ball Z style, just boom boom boom, just knocks the hell out of her. Now she doesn't seem so OP. That's the perfect fix, am I right? Alright, so you guys know how I'm trying to go and win a contest, right? One of the last winners went on to get serialized by Jump Plus. It gets to sit next to stuff like Dandadan and Kaiju number 8. I was so hyped, but I was like, damn, I wanted to be first, man. It just lit a fire in me because I was like, yo, proof exists. You can get serialized by Jump Plus. You can get next to One Piece. Someone's done it, that means anyone can do it. This made me work to hone my craft in writing even more. Okay, so it's month 4 now, and I could feel myself drawing much slower. I was sitting at about 150 pages done. So basically, last month I only drew 50 storyboarded pages, which is 50% less than last time. But I let it pass because I was about to draw a fight I had been dreaming about for a long time. Mika Arson versus Vance Hunter. And bro, I started pouring my soul into these pages. At this time, I heard that there are moments that make a series someone's favorite. Chapter 2 was gonna be that moment. Exiting the arson missile's flames with lungs full of smoke, Vance has to dodge all of Mika and Sharky's attacks. And then we lead into the most trippiest shit ever. I don't know what I was smoking. Also in this chapter, we get a scene where Kid Vance and Zaria meet. Both of them are a bit broken, but they both have their moments. I just really wanted like this gritty, dark, but also wholesome scene. Till this day, I'm kind of like, damn, like this might just be my best written scene. Overall, I started to feel a lot better about my writing skills, and I felt comfortable with chapter 2. Chapter 2 ended with a cliffhanger that would set up the third and last chapter. Month 5 arrived, and I hadn't read chapter 1 1 in over a month. I didn't want to get distracted because after all, chapter 2 was my golden chapter. But when I came back to it, surprisingly, chapter 1 wasn't bad. Thankfully, it was still entertaining, but I could tell it had invisible problems lurking in the shadows. So I put chapter 3 on pause. So now I had a new challenge. Great, interesting scenes. There's a scene where Vance gets to spend time with his daughter Sumuna, and I feel like it was kind of bad that I was highlighting him neglecting Sumuna too early. I think it's best for that type of scene to be shown later. Also, I wrote another scene where Zaria, Vance, and Sumuna, they all play outside, but the same problem happened again. It's kind of make you maybe root against Vance and Sumuna. Another scene I wrote was having two sisters kill guardians in front of this gate, and I was like, nah, I just had no build up. There was just no progress. Eventually though, I did create a scene where I gave Sumuna a sentient shotgun axe. She almost gets assassinated by a shadow creature. So Sumuna starts fighting it, but that's when her maid, basically like her second mother, gets captured, and then Sumuna, she uses her rage. She's like, Zaria used to never hang out with me. She didn't take me to go see the Bumblebubs. And then as soon as she's about to save her second mother, boom, cliffhanger. It was actually done really well. Like, yeah, the scene was short and powerful, but it didn't even go in chapter 1 and went in chapter 2. Month 6 is where I finally decided to bite the bullet. I was in the stage where I was like, let me get this ready to ink. So the first chapter started out with Vance saving this woman from like a scary neighborhood. Now what I do is I establish Mika as being a true menace. I have her stalk Vance. She debates whether she should kill Vance in public with a citizen. She even captures a government agent. It was kind of crazy just how much I was able to fit in with just those 10 pages. But rewriting those 10 pages made me realize chapter 1 might need a rewrite. Mika, Vance, and Zaria would have to be put on hold, and I started a new journey to improve solely my writing. Instantly, things got strange. Days started to merge. I'd consume writing education, put it into action, eat, sleep, repeat. Every single day the same. And to top this off, I would keep stories in my head. Felt like I was slowly creating a time gap. Still, it kind of felt like bliss in a weird way. I had 2 practice one-shots that I would work on. The first one's premise was Jalal and her sentient sword Zaria go on a mission to assassinate a slave trafficker in Nightfall City. Its vibe is basically if Boichi the Rock was an assassin with a sentient blade. Now for the second premise, Mika and Miyuna get into 2v2 assassin fights to find and save their captured sisters. Vibes are basically panty and stalking mixed with Jujutsu Kaisen. It was pure fun working on my practice one-shots and listening to music to vibe out and create cool stuff. Strangely, it didn't even feel like I stopped working on the manga, but slowly, drop by drop, I started to enter into the void. Writing was so frustrating and confusing, which really made me start to appreciate the art community. There's the art fundamentals. Everyone's always telling beginners to use references. There's a lot of showing how to improve stuff rather than telling. Everything just feels unified, but I just didn't get that same feeling from writing. 80% of writing videos are rants. A lot of information is inefficient or just flat out wrong. Slowly but surely, I started to get more and more frustrated, and that's when I hit my trigger point. I remember the exact moment in December. After 10 minutes of passive negativity, a YouTuber ended the video saying, I hate writing, but I love having written. I felt that. I didn't even think it's supposed to be like a super negative saying, but the way he said it, it sounded about right. I also realized that I might have to destroy my characters. I was low-key going through all stages of grief, bro. Writing wasn't fun. Storytelling was now an enemy. And this is when I started to say to myself, am I really learning from someone who can't put together a single Netflix episode? And so I cut them out and started watching game dev videos. These videos were so fresh and calming. Making small games, prototyping, and the idea of fun were things I started to look into. Along with this, I started to apply healthier sayings from the art community, such as it's okay to use references. Then Sanderson's 2025 writing lectures dropped. Something that he said that I latched onto was, the best writers I know are better at editing. But yeah, all of a sudden I slowly started to like writing and imagining stories again. I would do deep dives on stuff like Danadon, Gravity Falls, Spider-Verse, just everything. And learning how to write felt fun again. After 5 long months, I exited the void. But I was still kind of doing my like writing arc. I was trying to see some huge gains. So welcome to my writing arc. Let's go. Firstly, I experimented with mind maps. They definitely didn't feel too helpful, but they were decently fun, so that's valuable. But yeah, I feel like I could really learn more efficiently unfortunately, so that's when I created this Dandadan deep dive. To this day, I still believe studying Dandadan was one of the best things I've done. Now, it's hard to tell if this visual map helped me or if it was meticulously studying Dandadan that helped me, but personally, I think it was just simply diving deep into Dandadan that helped. But with that said, this canvas was fun to create, and I think it's really cool. Next, I made a storyboard. It's a little choppy because my goal was really just to get my ideas down. And yeah, this is partly inspired by Gravity Falls. I ended up watching the whole series on YouTube. I hope you can kind of feel the mystery vibes. I think they're kind of cool, but yeah. After studying Gravity Falls is when I realized that breaking down references was truly the game changer. And so yeah, that's some of the stuff I did during this time. Finally, I had exited my writing art. First thing I did was read my manga. It felt like uncovering dinosaur bones. It gave me icy chills, man. Even while in the void, I held no resentment towards my manga. But was the manga good? Yeah, I think so. It was pretty entertaining. The characters feel alive and the dialogue and expressions are on point. It was a fun read, but I could tell that it wasn't gonna win serialization. My biggest mistake was having no clear protagonist. Doing Mika vs Vance or even Mika vs Zaria in the first chapter would have done wonders. Now I had a choice: bring the manga to life or start fresh. I did the math and I'd have to spend 120 days inking my story. Huge for something I knew wouldn't be serialized. The worst part is that the storyboard has issues baked deep. If I were to untangle them and put the story back together, it would be entirely different. But after a day of thinking, I made my choice. I had to see it finished. Completing it would be so inspiring. Although leaving it unfinished wouldn't make it a failure, it'd still feel wrong if I left it like it's my first baby. How could I not finish something I poured so much love into? I'd remember it forever. But I did have to make some compromises. Chapter 1's getting inked. Chapter 2 I'm leaving as a storyboard. And chapter 3 is getting skipped entirely. It would be an extra 80 pages that I just couldn't commit to. So inking chapter 1 alone would be roughly 60 days of work. But again, I can't let my buddy rot in the dust. I gotta bring him to life. So I started inking it. And at first I was struggling because like my mind is kind of sticky. Whenever I thought about writing, I would go on like daily side tangents. I procrastinated for like 50 days. I could see it on my page tracker. But one day I was just completely fed up. Something awoke in me. I don't know what happened. I started doing 4 pages a day. Day after day, I was straight fiending. I don't know if it was one of those David Goggin videos I watched, a game dev video, or just feeling comfortable with my writing. All I know is that I was on a mission. And yeah, bro, this was a hard mission, man. I remember like around page 50, I ran out of YouTube videos to watch. I was like, bro, that's when I decided to listen to the entire Way of Kings audiobook in a 1,000-page book. It was so worth it. Also, while I was drawing, I was happy with the way I was able to bring Mika and Zaria to life. I feel like Vance and Zaria's relationship in the beginning was really well done. However, while I was drawing, I was really like, damn, if I had just done Mika versus Zaria, the story would have been so lean. I think one of the biggest problems I had was just really getting distracted by funny scenes and then just keeping them. However, one of my main goals was to make the reader say WTF, and the mission has been accomplished. Also, on my page tracker for the last 60 days, I basically had like a 90% show up rate. It was rough some days, but once you get the habit going, it's hard to stop. Some of the pages toward the end started to turn out beautifully. This was a huge time commitment, maybe not the best decision, but I will never be able to say I gave up. I quitted will never loop in my head. On June 30th, 2025, I inked all 100 pages and brought my manga to life. Currently, it's second place on Manga Plus creators. If you want to read it, the link's down below. It might be a little bit confusing because there's no clear protagonist, but I do think there's a lot of entertaining moments. If you want to see some like shocking moments, you might want to read it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching to the end, and yeah, hopefully you have a good day. Adios.